Well, good morning. Um, it's good to be back in Iowa after a successful Republican National Convention in Cleveland. They hosted us very well, and things went really well. And I got back just in time to be there for the Microsoft announcement in West Des Moines. Lieutenant Governor Reynolds is in Carroll and Algona this morning, meeting with women business owners on her Stories on Women's Lives tour. So she is not with us this morning. But I am joined by Roxanne Ryan, our Commissioner of Department of Public Safety, and Jackie Wyant, a principal of Marshalltown High School. In line with our administration's priority of continually building safer communities across our state, we are introducing a new initiative called WISE School. WISE stands for Wi-Fi Internet for School Emergencies. WISE will assist first responders and all public safety agencies when responding to critical incidents at our schools. The Iowa Department of Public Safety is leading this initiative in collaboration with the Iowa Communications Network and public safety agencies across the state. They are working together with schools to install a dedicated, private, and secure Wi-Fi network only accessible by school administrators and public safety agencies. This project is in its pilot stage and will be implemented for testing at Marshalltown High School, Martinsdale Community School, and Norwalk Community School by the end of this summer. Any violence occurring at schools creates concern for our children, their parents, the teachers, and the communities. Our public safety officials want to take steps that will protect the lives of our children, teachers, and school staff. Our broadband infrastructure across the state includes schools. As you know, the internet, the ICN is connected to all school districts. And we are exploring options for public safety officials and first responders to tap into the ICN Wi-Fi network when they are near a school that has ICN connections. This would allow public safety officials to access wireless communication systems and respond more effectively to incidents that occur in our schools. Just as importantly, it will allow public safety officials to access secure, high-speed internet connections in order to communicate and download information rapidly. In an emergency situation, this additional capacity is vitally important. Even in a non-emergency situation, it saves time for public safety officials, offers greater security in communications, and adds a public safety presence in and around our schools. Keep in mind, this is still in the pilot stage. We are working with Cisco, Fortinet, and Aruba, and I think some of them are also here today. They're all Wi-Fi vendors, and they will be doing field testing at these three schools that I mentioned earlier. If the pilot programs go well over this next year, we hope to expand this project to other schools across the state that are interested. And now I'm pleased to turn it over to our Commissioner of Public Safety, Roxanne Ryan. Roxanne?
Well, as is true for many of the baby boomers like me, technology is not always our friend, but I certainly appreciate the importance of technology in our everyday lives. And the WISE School Initiative is certainly a great example of how we can use that technology infrastructure that we have in Iowa that is different from what a lot of other states have. And it is that underlying infrastructure that really makes it possible for us to do more in Iowa than many other states are able to do. The ICN is robust. It allows public safety officials to access secure, private, high-speed wireless network connections at every school in Iowa and many other locations throughout the state. It includes the law enforcement sensitive information that we can download quickly as well as providing additional protection for any of the personal identifying information that is often the subject of identity theft. So that secure network is extremely important for us to be able to do that. We have other technology that we're able to use in emergencies that will mean that when we can have that fast download and upload capability, we're going to be able to communicate far better in emergencies as a result of that good connection. You'll often hear the technology experts talk to the public about the dangers of unprotected Wi-Fi, of unsecure Wi-Fi. There's a lot of information that is available through unsecured networks to hackers and other people who may have some bad intent. So those of us in public safety are particularly concerned about making sure that when we are accessing technology information, that we're doing that in a secure environment. This initiative is going to allow us to do that on a regular basis. It has the added benefit of bringing public safety officials to our schools on a regular basis, which can have a deterrent effect for anyone who may be wanting to do something bad at the schools. And it also means that we can deter people from preying on our children, from hanging out at the schools. And if we're there overnight, we can also prevent any burglaries or other activity that may be going on at the school. So simply having the presence there is a good deterrent. So it benefits us, it benefits the children, and it benefits the public to have this. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have that ICN infrastructure that we have in Iowa. There are many other states that simply don't have the kind of ICN network that we have in Iowa, and it is sufficiently robust that we are going to be able to access that information through public safety agencies without causing any slowdown for anybody else, because it is such an effective infrastructure. We appreciate all of the collaboration that we've seen among state agencies in this pilot project, and we particularly appreciate the coordination that we have had with the schools that are involved and the other local agencies that are working with those schools. So I'm going to let the principal talk a little bit about what the impact is for the schools.
Marshalltown High School is excited to continue its collaboration with the emergency responders in our county. Having the ICN infrastructure in our building and utilizing it to its greatest capacity is also a wonderful foresight for our state and for providing the safety to the children in our school district. Furthermore, it's already been mentioned that having first responders just visible in the neighborhood provides that extra protection for our children and is a deterrent for any unsafe measures that may occur. Well, the school district and in particular the administration at the high school are very excited to be able to have this, our cameras online and on the system so that all of the emergency responders can see if an event does occur in our building and be there and respond in a quick and safe manner and help us to relegate that situation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I also noticed in the crowd is DT McGee, who's been with the Department of Education and now is going to be the new superintendent at Norwalk. So that's one of the three schools as well. We would open it to your questions on this subject first.
Governor, this state legislature has spent a lot of money on interoperability communications. How does this differ from that? If you're spending millions of dollars on interoperable communications, why do you need something like this?
I'll let Roxanne handle that.
Two reasons. One is that the radio communication is certainly extremely valuable. It's a microwave system, so that is a separate system. And if there would ever be any problem with any kind of wireless access, we would still have the radios as backup. In emergency, a whole variety of different ways to communicate, and this is just another way to do that. In addition, we do have an interface between the radio system and apps on phones, so that it is going to be possible to connect this with interop, and we can have a coordinated response if we need to do that as well. So having more options is always safer. In an active shooter situation, having access to those surveillance cameras is extremely important. It's going to be able to tell us where the individual is, and so for the first responders, if they are able to tell where the danger is, they can stay safer and they can keep the children safer as well. There may be other opportunities to be able to communicate with people within the school. If we know what's happening at the time, there may be a way to be able to respond more effectively as a tactical matter for all of those first responders. So we hope we can save children's lives and keep the first responders safe as well.
How much assurance can you give parents that this surveillance system cannot be hacked by them?
Well, that's going to depend on the surveillance systems that are used and how the information is shared with law enforcement. It's a technology issue that certainly is outside my area of expertise, but I know that we have a lot of people who do know about that, who can do a lot of things to be able to try and protect the security of each one of the systems that we have.
So how confident are you that this cannot be hacked, or that they're assuring you, how confident are you on your safety?
Well, we're as confident as we can be. The hackers have different motivations than what the normal public would have, and so if there's a motivation to try and get through a system, they certainly are going to do their very best to do that. And we know that, which means when we're setting up systems, we're trying to provide as much protection as we possibly can from any of those hackers. The advantage of having the ICN involved is that there is so much capacity in the ICN that there are a lot of things that we're going to be able to do with the ICN that we could not do with other types of wireless coverage.
Outside of the worst case scenario, shoot or something like that, on a day-to-day basis, how would law enforcement use this? How would it help them? What would they do in the schools?
Well, the primary advantage of, I think, is the deterrent effect of having the public safety vehicles present at the time. Simply having people there is a good deterrent to anybody who is interested in attacking a school. So I think we'll be able to respond better if the worst possible thing occurs, but having people outside makes a big difference.
Why would they be outside? Are they going to be just stopping by routinely to
They can,
access public safety?
yes,
networks?
they can upload and download much, much faster because the ICN has such good robust capacity. So they're going to be able to save a lot of time if they are uploading or downloading information. So if they're uploading their reports to their home system, they're going to be able to do that a whole lot faster. And they do that on a regular basis. They're uploading and downloading information on a daily basis.
So this isn't just on demand, you turn it on, this is 24/7. That can be
Right. And it's a separate, secure, private network just for law enforcement.
Do you have any cost estimates on this?
Well, the use of the ICN itself is not going to cost anything. In terms of the equipment that's involved, that's one of the things that we're looking at. It should be relatively inexpensive because if you can access a wireless service, you should be able to access the ICN.
The vendors for these three schools, these pilot projects, the vendors are going to be supplying it. Now, there will be some costs, and this is pilot project, so we're going to be reviewing how this works out. And if it works out as well as we hope that it will, then we'll be able to offer this to other schools as well. So the vendors, they have the three vendors, and they're each donating to make this, to demonstrate that this really can be an effective deterrent and part of protecting the safety of our schools.
And what would be your expectation for how widely adopted this might be in the end?
Well, it's pretty hard to predict at this point, but we have the advantage of the ICN and the robust capacity that's there. This is just another way to utilize that to help protect the safety of our children. And we'll be anxious to see how this goes in the three schools that do it this year. And then depending upon how that goes, we'll see how many other schools will want to do it.
This kind of,
every time there's a technology advance, it raises new issues. Since this is public to public communications, is this information then going to be accessible to the public, especially after an emergency situation, or will it have to be FOI?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know.
I think we'll treat it, it's law enforcement information, so we'll treat it the same as we do anything else. So if it's possible for us to share the information without endangering an investigation, we certainly are going to be able to do that. We don't share the personal identifying information. So it's a standard FOIA request. And I'm not sure that we're really going to be gathering a lot of additional information. It depends on what information the school would provide, but it doesn't change the open records law. There may be more information that we would be able to gather, but the same FOIA standards would apply.
Principal, do you have cameras throughout your campus then that would be lived in, or what kind of coverage, say, on your campus?
We do. We have system cameras outside the building, inside of our athletic facilities. And one of the things that we had, let me back up. I was previously at Sioux City Community School District, and in Sioux City, we were able to use an IP address to access the cameras off campus as needed. It was called one time in another building and used the cameras to access where an ELL student had gotten lost. So coming to Marshalltown, that was one of the first things I asked about, because the system is only accessible to one or two folks on our staff. And so to quickly get information as needed, even regarding a simple theft of something out of the cafeteria, was rather difficult. So now this opportunity has allowed all of our administrative team, including our school resource officer, to access information quickly.
I wonder if the average person hearing this is going to think there are already, some school districts are struggling to put computers in their classrooms and get good enough, internet connections in their classrooms. Is this just going to create more inequity between schools? I mean, there are a lot of schools that aren't going to have cameras everywhere.
I can't speak to other school districts. Maybe we another. Do you have an answer to that?
Well, first of all, the 1 cent sales tax can be used for computers. And we've got a lot of school districts. If you compared today to, say, 10 years ago, there's a lot of school districts, rural and urban, all over the state of Iowa, that have a computer for every student. And, we've had the ICN system for a long time, but we also have a lot of other technology. And technology is rapidly changing things. So I think it's not going to slow down. We need to continue to look at ways that we can do things better and use the technology to protect safety. So I think this is an important step forward. And as we said, it's a pilot project. We're working with 3 vendors, 3 school districts. We'll see how that goes. And if that goes well, hopefully it'll be adopted in a lot of other places as well. But I think the PEPL dollars can be used for this kind of technology, as well as the sales tax, the 1 cent sales tax that school districts get. Other questions on this subject?
It was said that after this program has been tested, they're going to see if it's ready for other school districts. How are you testing that? Will we have to wait until an emergency happens at one of these schools?
No, I think there'll be an opportunity for these school districts to see how it works for them, and they'll be able to let their colleagues know, and then a decision can be made. But obviously, we're all going to be watching to see and staying in touch with the school districts that are doing this, and then we'll get a report back. So, but I think it's smart that we're doing this as a pilot project instead of trying to do it in every school district all right off the bat.
Will there be a cost to schools to tap into this if they choose to get involved?
Well, for the first 3, as I said, the vendors are basically donating this, but there will be a cost, and I guess at this point I don't know exactly how much that will be. Other questions? If you don't have any questions, I'll go to other subjects as well. Yes, sir.
Can I just ask a political question?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but you can go ahead and ask, I guess.
scenario, why would he win Iowa when Obama and other Democrats have done very well?
Well, this is a battleground state. And by the way, I carried 98 counties in the last election. So I think Republicans can do well here. I think that the Democrats made a big mistake when the establishment in D.C. Chose Patty Judge to be their Senate candidate. A lot of the grassroots Democrats have no enthusiasm for her, are not happy with that situation. I think Grassley is going to do very well. We have strong candidates for Congress and for the legislature. I think there's going to be an extraordinary Republican effort. Just a good example is this. The Republicans had a record 187,000 people turn out for the precinct caucuses back in February when you had to get out in a cold night when it was dark outside. The Democrats had a primary in a four-way race for U.S. Senate, and they had a hotly contested congressional race up in Northeast Iowa. And the turnout for their primary in June, when you could vote, and first of all, you could vote absentee, plus you had from 7 in the morning to 9 at night, was less than 100,000. That tells you a little bit about the enthusiasm. It is a choice between basically the status quo and the DC establishment, which runs the Democratic Party, which is consistent with their rigged system of superdelegates. A lot of Democrats are not happy with that. A lot of Americans think the country's on the wrong track and we need new leadership. And I think Donald Trump offers an outsider who has a new direction for this country, and I think he's going to do very well. I think he's got an excellent chance to win in Iowa. Nothing is going to be taken for granted. My son is going to be the state director for the campaign. He's enthused about the number of people that normally don't get involved in politics that are volunteering and saying, we want to help. So I say I don't know much about politics, but I do try to study what's going on. Yeah. Well, Roxanne and I have talked about the issues of distracted drivers, drowsy drivers, people under the influence of controlled substances, and we've seen not only an increase in the deaths of cyclists, bicyclists, motorcyclists, but also motorists. And I do want to see us address those issues. And Roxanne's put a group together. I think maybe you might want to answer this too. That's going to be studying this and making recommendations.
About cyclists in general or overall?
This is overall, but cyclists are part of it.
And I think cyclists are an important piece of that. When we talk about fatalities in general, it's the distracted driving, the drugged driving, the drunk driving, and the drowsy driving that seems to be the problem. And of course, for bicyclists, they are always at a disadvantage when it's any kind of vehicle that causes issues. And this is one of the handouts that we have developed through the Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau, focused specifically on public awareness of bicyclists. So I would encourage you to make sure that people are conscious about bicyclists. We take that very seriously. Pedestrians are the other issue that we have dealt with specifically. So those motor vehicles are certainly important, but we have to include bicyclists and pedestrians when we talk about traffic safety. They are at a big, big, big disadvantage. So public awareness, I think, is absolutely the key to prevent those kinds of fatalities.
Is this a new, remember it's not justified, is that something new? Or is that not?
We put it out this spring. So this is late winter, early spring, I think, is when we actually developed this. And we've provided it to a lot of different agencies around the state. So I would certainly encourage you to, if you want more copies of these, we have lots and lots of those. And we would encourage anybody who is interested in providing a bigger focus on bicyclists to get these and really talk about bicycle safety.
Let me add one other thing. When you mentioned pedestrians, I thought of this Pokemon Go craze that's going on. And if you walk around Des Moines even, and all over the country, people are walking around looking at their phones, and crossing streets. And so pedestrians need to be careful too, even if you're involved in Pokemon Go or whatever it might be. So distracted drivers is a problem, but distracted pedestrians may put their own lives at risk too.
You seem to be, when Rita brought this up, you said,
Right.
but we've seen it's distracted drivers are the problem. We've seen an increase, not just in bicycle fatalities, but other fatalities.
Motorcycle,
But it's-
automobile.
And I think there's a record number of bicycle fatalities this year. Do you not have some specific concern about bicycle safety?
Well, sure we do. We have a specific concern about it. We've had some tragedies. We had one right on Grand Avenue. And I think that was actually a driver under the influence. But, you got to look at each and every one. We had the 2 Des Moines police officers killed by a drunk driver going the wrong way on the interstate. We're concerned about all of those. And I met with the families at the memorial services, and it's really a tragic situation when you have somebody that's killed needlessly because somebody is either under the influence or distracted or for whatever reason. And we want to try to do everything we can to protect the bicyclists, the motorcyclists, and everybody else. Yes.
One second, Bill. Barbara, first, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Just a few weeks ago, the Department of Transportation announced that because of the decision on their budget, kind of half of that roughly 10 million that they had sought for additional staffing, that they're going to have to close some driver's license stations, some maintenance garages, and that it'll have an impact around rural Iowa where there's going to be less plowing. Do you think that merits any kind of supplemental aid during?
Well, first of all, let me address the driver's license stations. They're going to close 2, one in Carroll and one in Spencer. These are the 2 that are used the least. However, I just talked with a gentleman from Carroll. The treasurer in Carroll is going to open a county treasurer's licensing like 40. It's now up to 81 counties. And Kim Reynolds, when she was county treasurer, was one of the leaders that convinced us that county treasurers could do this. We also, because of the timing of it, I want to talk to the DOT about possibly extending the time before they close it so that Carroll County can be ready. And it's not just the driver's license, but it's also for the truck, the CDL licenses that they get. We want to make sure that they can do that as well. So I think we can make that transition. With regard to the other maintenance garages and whatever, they've been in the process of consolidating that over time. And in so doing, and I've seen the map, they're going to be able to plow the roads. And I don't think it's really going to make a big difference in terms of that area. We're always looking for ways that we can more efficiently deliver the services and have more of the money going for building roads and bridges rather than for administrative costs. And that's what we're continuing to do, is to try to reduce the administrative costs in these departments and agencies, public DOT being one of them, and yet be able to provide the services. But the most important services is to build the roads and bridges that need to be done.
The department has said specifically that this will, reduce services. Are you challenging that assessment from the department?
First of all, I've tried to work with both the legislature and the department. And the department wanted more money. They got half of what they wanted. I think they can live with that and make it work and continue to look for ways to be more efficient. And in the DOT, I can go way back when I was governor before, and we had the committee, the Fisher Commission recommended that we eliminate all of these traveling DOT driver's license things. They used to come to rural counties once, half a day every two weeks. County treasurer says, we can do that. Oh, no, they can't do it. They don't have the expertise, whatever. So we said, okay, we'll do a pilot project. We did 6 rural counties in Southwest Iowa. It worked so well, we're up to 81 now. So now it's going to be probably 83 after this. And my guess is when it's all said and done, the public in these counties, Carroll County and Clay County, will feel like the public does in the other counties. They really appreciate having the quality of services that can be provided in these rural counties by the county treasurer's office where they're not that busy.
Nope, and then Rod, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Governor, I had a two-part question. One, you're probably aware there's been a lot of discussion at the state university football stadiums. Should they allow stadium-wide beer sales? Texas and Ohio State, and many other universities have been doing that. Should that be happening at the Iowa University?
Will that cause us to win like Ohio State and Texas? I don't know. No, I'm just kidding about that. Actually, Texas has had a kind of a bad year here lately. I think they got to be really careful. This is a Board of Regents decision, but there's a lot of drinking that goes on, in the before the games with all the tailgating and all of that. And binge drinking is a problem on college campuses. So, I think they need to look at the whole picture in terms of deciding whether this is the right thing to do, not just at the money that it'll bring in.
And the second part was, there's been discussion, I think President Harold has said that he would like the athletic department to look at the idea of turning money over to the other regular education programs. They've got this huge TV contract. Is that something that they should look at doing?
Well, I think that's a university decision. And if the athletic department wants to support the academic programs in the other part of the university, what do they used to say about Oklahoma? They wanted to have a university that the football team could be proud of. So, you know what I mean? Wait, I don't know. I think that's a individual decision that the university has to make, and I would let the university make that decision.
Rod, then we gotta go.
Some states and countries have banned the use of cell phones and electronic devices while driving. Do you think it's time for Iowa to consider that, and will you come with a legislative proposal?
Well, that's one of the things we're looking at as far as distracted drivers. And we'll be looking at the whole thing about use of different devices and other things that might distract drivers. As I said, we also even need to be concerned about distracted pedestrians in light of this Pokemon Go thing. There's a lot of people walking around, and some of them even crossing the street looking at their phones. I mean, I've seen it here just in the last few days. This is a whole new phenomenon. But we do need to be concerned about protecting public safety, but we also want to do it in a fair and balanced way. And that's the reason why this group is going to be looking at it. And I'm anticipating they will be making recommendations, and it'll be one of the major issues that I would address in the condition of the state address next January.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.